All right, as we continue our adventure looking at linear functions, we're on 5.4 looking at the point-slope form. We just spent some time looking at the slope-intercept form. This is the point-slope form, a little bit different. What's different about it is that we're not looking at the y-intercept, which is usually over here, either being added or subtracted. We're using just the slope, m, and we're using a point on the graph, a coordinate that we know of. And with these three elements, we can find some stuff. So here's a point slope form right here. Here's an equation of that. And we can see on this that there is our slope. And here is our point. We can see x showing up right there as 2 and y showing up as 5. This right here, the negative, is just we're working with the difference of it. So that's why we're subtracting it from both sides. I want you to give it a try. Press pause, and I want you to indicate the slope on this equation and then the point that we have. And then we'll go ahead and graph it. All right, once I know a point on the graph, I can plot that. And I did that right here, -2, 5. And from there, I used my slope. Rise -2, and I ran 3. So I fell -2 and rose 3. So I look at my graph and I can tell this is reasonable. It's a negative slope. I put my arrows on the ends to indicate that the solution does continue on. I use a straight edge because every point on here represents a solution, and I do extend it to the edges of the graph, which is something I also want you to do. It looks really good. I hope yours does too. Writing an equation in point-slope form. So right now we just have a graph, and we're going to work for a couple of situations here. So first of all, I can go ahead and look for the slope. I have 2 points here, so I'm looking for the rise. 1, 2, and I'm looking for the run. 1, 2, 3. So it rises 1. Let's see, the rise is 2. And it runs 3, so I have found my slope. Now I'm going to look for a point here. I'm going to use this point right here for this one. And it looks like that point is at 1. What am I doing? There we go. It's at the coordinate 1, 2. I can use this to create my point slope form. So I can see that y minus 2 is equal to my slope, which is 2/3 times x minus, and I'm going to grab my x point, which is 1. So right here represents my equation in point slope form. I could also use the second point too. It doesn't really matter. I'm going to advance to the next slide. We go ahead and press pause, and I want you to find the equation using these points. All right, let's see how you did on this one. I actually ran this on both points. So I used the slope of -1/3 on both of mine, and then I ran it on 0, 0. And I also ran my equation using 3 and -1. 3 and -1. Write the equation of a line with the slope of -3 that passes through the points -1 and 0. And write the equation of the line. And we're doing this in point slope form, but when you're given the slope and you're given the points, you really can just plug them in and make it happen. So slope happens here. And then I have my x. Because it's x minus 1, I'm going to simplify that as x plus 1 because my x coordinate is -1. And then also with the 7, I'm going to plug it in, y minus 7. All right, once you press pause and you try it, will you go ahead? I'm giving you a slope. I'm giving you a point on the graph. I want you to write this in point slope form. All right, here's our answer. We'll plug it in. My slope shows up here, and my points, I have my x showing up here, and my y showing up there. If you know 2 points on a line, first use them to find the slope, and then you can write the equation using either point. This is when it gets really interesting. We kind of did this already once, so I'm going to go ahead and find the slope. I'm going to find my rise over run, so 1, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So it rises 7 and runs 1, 2, 3. So my slope is 7/3. Let's play this out now. So I'm going to grab this particular, actually I kind of like 0, 0. All right, so I have a slope, I have a point on the graph. Now I can use my equation, y minus 0 equals my slope times x minus my other 0. And I can simplify this a little bit. Y minus 0, I'm actually not going to add 0 to both sides, but it's 7/3 x minus 0. Y equals 7/3 x. And notice that there's no constant here, and so that's why it goes to the origin. This points directly to the origin. I believe we have a direct variation going on here. So my equation is here, and here it is in slope-intercept form. Using 2 points to write an equation. Write an equation for the line in point-slope form and in slope-intercept form. Okay, remember point-slope form is our new one that we're working on. Slope-intercept form is my y equals my slope plus my y-intercept. That's why it's called slope-intercept form. Those are the points I'm given. Let's go ahead and calculate this out. I'm using these 2 points. I'm going to use 3 minus -5 over 2 minus -1. I'm going to add those together. Ooh, I'm going to get a fun slope of 8/3. That could be kind of exciting. Pick a point and write an equation in point-slope form. So I'm going to pick the points. I'm going to go ahead and do this one. So I have y minus 3 equals my slope, which is going to be 8/3 times x minus, where is it? Oh, 2. Okay, pick point. We're going to write in point slope form. There's my point slope form. I'm now going to go ahead and work this out. I want to turn this into my slope intercept form. All right, y minus 3 equals 8/3 x minus, I'm doubling this, so it is 16/3. Keep going here. I'm going to add 3 to both sides, and I'm at y equals 8/3 x minus 16/3 plus 3. Now I'm going to change this 3. I'm going to change this 3 so I can use it. I'm going to change it into thirds. So I'm going to cross that out, and I want to change this so 3 wholes, it's going to be 9/3. Yeah, that's what I'm looking for. So I have my -16/3, and I'm going to add 9/3 to this. I think that's what I want to do. 8/3 x. Yeah, that's what I want to do. So y equals 8/3 x, and I got to see what's left. So I'm going to have -7/3. There we are. Believe it or not, this is like equation in slope intercept form. Y equals 8/3 x minus 7/3. Looks funky, but that's what it is. I can go and run this out. I'm going to press pause. I'm going to run this on the other point. I use this on the 3 and the 2, but I'm going to go ahead and use it on a second point. So I'm going to press pause and just play it out. All right, when I run my second point using the slope 8/3, like we're doing, and I use the point -1, -5, I still end up with the same equation. So it doesn't matter what point you use, they're all going to direct you to the correct slope. You just got to pay attention to the fractions that are happening with you. Using 2 points to write an equation, this is your turn to give it a try. Press pause and see how you do. All right, so I found my difference in y and difference in x. Rise over 1, so I found my slope to be 2 over 2, which is 1. And then I use that to do point slope form. So in the green and in the blue are the two options, considering what point you used, what coordinate you used. And then in number 3, I played out kind of both, whatever point you use, considering the slope of 1, and they both worked out. Finding the y-intercept to be 1, so my equation is y equals x plus 1. All right, write an equation. Write the equation of the line in slope-intercept form with the slope of -2 that passes through the point at -3, 7. So you're going to write it in slope-intercept form. I'm going to write in this guy, slope-intercept form. I'm going to press pause. Why don't you give it a try as well? Pause. All right, I'm going to work this out with you real quick. Since I know my slope, so I can use the points. So I'm going to use 7. Here's my y equals my slope times my x coordinate plus b, which I'm trying to solve for. Simplify a little bit. 6 plus b. Subtract 6 from both sides. I'm finding that b equals 1. So if I know my slope and I know my y-intercept, I then know my equation is y equals -2x plus 1. This being my slope and this being my y-intercept. Press pause and you give it a try. Practice, practice, practice. All right, I knew my slope was 3 and I found my y-intercept of -2. And once I know my slope, I can plug it in, and once I know my y-intercept, I can plug that in. All right. All right, I'm gonna go to a coffee shop and sit and stare at people awkwardly, and I'm gonna pretend I'm sketching them. Ha! That'll be strange.